I think I made one of the best Stasis Hunter builds of all time. And the best part about this build is that you do not need any exotic weapon, but I will give you some honorable mentions. So this build will grant you the ability to spam your melee and your class ability while freezing and slowing a boatload of enemies. And the best part, you're going to be spawning in a boatload of stasis crystals. And to make this build even more powerful, you're going to be extremely tanky. So your survivability is going to be top tier. Your crowd control is going to be top tier. There's basically the best of both worlds. If you guys would like to try out the build for yourself, the build link will be in the description. So without wasting your time, let's get right into the build. The exotic armor piece you're going to need to use for this build is called the Mask of Fealty. So it will enhance your withering blades. So whenever you were to activate this melee ability, it would hit multiple targets, and it would also create a small stasis crystal. And lastly, it will refund a portion of your melee energy. While using Withering Blade to shatter crystals or a frozen target, it would also release a spread of Withering Blades. So what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to activate my Withering Blade just once. So I'm going to hit it once, it's going to hit multiple targets, and it's going to create that stasis crystal, which will freeze that enemy. So I'm going to either hit the enemy or the stasis crystal, but in this case, I'm going to hit the stasis crystal, and it poops out 3 extra stasis crystals from that initial stasis crystal we first just spawned. So this time, I'm going to activate my Withering Blade, and then I'm going to use my second initial melee to hit the target. Once I hit the target, more stasis crystals will spawn. So 2 additional ones will spawn right there, and also, of course, the one that just spawned there. So in this build, there's going to be 2 ways for us to generate a boatload of melee energy. The first one is this stasis aspect called Grim Harvest. This will grant you the ability to spawn in stasis shards, and whenever you pick up a stasis shard, it will grant you melee energy. But in order for you to get a stasis shard, you're going to need to defeat either slowed or frozen targets. So either you or your allies could pick it up. And the best part about this aspect is that while this aspect is equipped, picking up a stasis shard will grant you a stack of frost armor. And if you don't know what frost armor does, it basically gives you a damage resist. And the more stacks you have from frost armor, the higher amount of damage resist you're going to be getting. And in this build, we're going to be getting the maximum, aka you're going to be getting a 50% damage resist for 13 seconds. This is the most highest amount of damage resist in Destiny 2 currently. And the second method for you to get your melee back is by activating your class ability, specifically Gambler's Dodge. So all you would have to do is either dodge near an enemy because of another aspect we're using for this build, or you can just dodge anywhere you like. But I do want to let you guys know, I do recommend to get your melee stat up to 100 if you want to get your melee back extremely fast with Gambler's Dodge. And might as well, we're talking about that, the next aspect you're going to need to put for this build is Winter Shroud, mainly due to the second part. But first, whenever you dodge, it will slow nearby targets. And secondly, slowing targets will briefly increase your class ability regeneration. And if you want that to be boosted even higher, for your second stat, be sure to go for your class stat and go for 100 within your class stat. So you basically want to activate your melee ability to freeze the enemy. You're going to use your melee again to shatter it to spawn in additional crystals. Then you're going to want to dodge to get your melee back and use your melee again to generate those stasis shards. Run to them, collect them, and keep activating your melee and then your class and until you run out of all of your abilities. But that's mainly the gameplay loop for this build. And the grenade I recommend you were to use for this build is Cold Snap Grenade, because this thing freezes enemies and it's going to be easy to give you stasis shards. So there's going to be 5 fragments in total, and for each and every one of them, I highly recommend you were to use this for this build. On your first one, be sure to go for Whisper of Conductions. This is a quality of life for your stasis shards, because typically whenever you create a stasis shard, you would have to physically run to it. But for this fragment, you don't need to do that. The stasis shards will follow you. So nearby stasis shards will track your position. The second fragment, go for Whisper of Rhyme. This will increase the stacks for your frost armor, aka this will grant you the ability to give you that 50% damage resist for 13 seconds. And if you're wondering how many stacks you would need, you'll basically need 8 stacks of frost armor. And the third fragment, be sure to go for Whisper of Fissures to increase the damage and size of the burst of stasis whenever you were to destroy a stasis crystal or defeat a frozen target. So in this build, we're going to be doing both of those things. The main crucial fragment you're going to need for this build is Whisper of Hunger, because it will increase the melee energy gained whenever you pick up a stasis shard. That's how we have the ability to spam our Withering Blades non-stop as long as we pick up stasis shards. The last fragment, go for Whisper of Refraction. Defeating slowed or frozen targets will grant you class ability energy. And again, for this build, we are going to be slowing and freezing targets. So when it comes for the weapons for this build, I went with this stasis submachine gun called Seraphine Haze. If you're wondering wondering on how to get this SMG, you basically have to play any portal activity. And be sure to get lucky, because the perks that you would need for this build, this is new, called Crystalline Corpse Bloom. So rapid final blows will spawn in a stasis crystal near the victim's location. And if you have this enhanced, the stasis crystal will become a larger stasis crystal. So once you get that kill, you're going to have a certain amount of time. In my case, it's 3 seconds because it's enhanced. And during that time, be sure to get additional kills to spawn in those stasis crystals. Let me show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get a kill, and it's going to activate the buff on the bottom left for 3 seconds. The next kill I get will spawn in a stasis crystal. The next kill will spawn in a stasis crystal. The next kill will spawn in another one. And then it just keeps going until the timer runs out on your SMG. So basically, you can get infinite amount of stasis crystals as long as you get a boatload of kills during the timer for Crystalline Corpse Bloom. This is pretty nuts. Why I chose to put this perk is because of the exotic helmet. Because remember, if you were to use your Withering Blade on the stasis crystal, it would release a spread of Withering Blades. And on the third column, you can choose between any of these 2 perks. The first one, if you want to keep an uptime for your frost armor, be sure to go for Rime Stealer. Destroying a stasis crystal or defeating a frozen target with this weapon will grant you frost armor. And the other perk, you can also go for Subsistence if you want to spray and pray when it comes to producing a boatload of stasis crystals. So defeating a target partially reloads the magazine from reserves. And for the origin trait for this submachine gun, I chose to put is called Vanguard Determination. This is for like survivability. So after using your class ability, final blows with this weapon will grant you a bonus damage resist. All right, if you're one of those people that don't have this SMG, I'll give you some exotics that really fit with this build. The first one I highly recommend is Wicked Implement because it has Headstone, and this also slows and freezes enemies, and it's also enhanced whenever you pick up stasis shards that would overflow the magazine. Another one could be like Aegir Scepter, extremely good for ad clear. This will slow and freeze enemies. On your power weapon, you can go for like Salvation's Grip to produce even more stasis crystals if you like, or if you really want to freeze a boatload of enemies, you could also go for Winter Bite. For the seasonal artifacts, if you really want to copy it, feel free to do so. All of these artifacts are tied to increasing your frost armor stacks to get more of an uptime to it, and also you're going to have the ability to slow and freeze a boatload of enemies around you. All right, here are the armor mods I was using for this build. I mainly wanted to convert my stasis shards into armor charges, which will convert my armor charges into more class ability energy so I can be able to get my melee quicker. And as we activate our class ability, we're going to be collecting nearby orbs of power around us, and the next time we were to activate our class ability, we're going to be getting more class ability energy back. And also too, if you do want to reduce your super cooldown, be sure to dodge near enemies. It's not necessary, but if you want to prioritize that, feel free to do so. If you guys did enjoy this build video, I hope that helped you and you learned something new. And if you did, I would greatly appreciate it if you were to hit that like button and also subscribe. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, evening, or afternoon. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.